Chapter 16, Operational Analyses. Revenue management is necessary to make a successful business. You may have heard revenue management referred to as yield management. Either way, it is the core of any business. When applied correctly, revenue management optimizes product availability and prices in order to maximize revenue growth, as well as predicting consumer behavior. An easier way of understanding this is to think of revenue management as selling the right seat in the right place to the right customer at the right price and for the right duration. Revenue management considers the right price, the right duration, break-even analysis, and price elasticity, all of which we will discuss in the next few slides. When considering the right price, know that prices are flexible. This is useful in maximizing your profit. Price manipulation examples include offering a happy hour special in an otherwise lower demand time period of the day, or offering coupons. Time-limited coupons will bring customers in the door. Sometimes it's even customers who may not normally visit. And then premium pricing is another common strategy, such as charging higher prices during a busy holiday. The right duration refers to a customer's meal duration. Ideally, you want to increase your seat turnover. However, you do not want to rush a customer through their meal. A better way to increase turnover is to be as efficient as possible with your kitchen's food preparation and your service. Consider time between courses as well as payment efficiency. All of this ideally would increase seat turnover. The break-even analysis is used to determine a break-even point, which is the volume of sales that your revenue covers your fixed and variable costs but does not produce a profit. Keep in mind that fixed costs stay constant while variable costs change with sales. To find a break-even point, first you will want to find a contribution rate. This is calculated by subtracting variable costs by total sales, then dividing by total sales. Now take your fixed costs and divide your contribution rate, and you have your break-even point in sales. Price elasticity can be used to determine if customer sensitivity to menu prices exists. If the price of an item is increased and the demand for that item decreases, we know that that menu item is elastic. Therefore, every manager should hope that their items are in inelastic demand. In order to calculate price elasticity, first we will divide the change in the quantity of an item ordered by the quantity ordered prior to a price change. Then we will divide the change in price of the item by its original price. Lastly, divide your result from the first step by your result from the second step. If your answer is less than 1, your item represents inelastic demand. Cost analysis techniques are a great tool to use during operational analysis. Two cost analysis methods are activity-based costing and potential food cost. In activity-based costing, management can trace fixed costs to individual menu items. The first step in this is to determine areas with fixed costs, then we can distribute them into the appropriate cost driver, or expense, if you will. To understand cost drivers, it is easiest to explain what the 4 distinct drivers are. First, we have direct cost drivers, which are an expense that increases whenever a specific food item is prepared. Therefore, the expense is allocated to the appropriate menu item. Next is batch cost drivers, which simply refers to a batch of food items, so that expense is distributed across the whole batch of related menu items. Third is product level drivers. This cost is allocated across proportionately to the raw cost of specific menu items because it deals with the course of activities used to produce those items. Lastly are facility sustaining cost drivers. These are an expense that arises from the operation's general processes and is allocated to the raw cost of menu items. Potential food cost is the cost of food under ideal conditions. To determine potential cost, the cost of the purchase of a certain food item is considered. For example, if a 24-pack of chicken is bought at $30, the potential cost is found by dividing the cost by the amount of product. So $30 divided by 24 equals $1.25 each. However, naturally, things may happen in a business, so we may have to adjust for this for an actual price. For example, 6 pieces of chicken spoil and are discarded. So with that change, our equation is now $30 divided by 18 pieces of chicken, making our actual cost $1.67. Operations will often calculate their potential food costs for an entire week. They can then use this to determine a potential food cost percent by dividing by their revenue for the week. Operations will also calculate the actual food cost for the week and again divide by revenue, giving them an actual food cost percent. If the variance between the two percents is less than 1%, it is generally a good indicator. It is good to know the productivity of your food service establishment. In general terms, productivity is equal to the sum of goods and services divided by the sum of labor, materials, energy, and capital. There is an incredibly wide array of statistics used to examine the productivity and financials of food service operations. This owes to the endless variety of restaurants, institutions, and other operations that serve so many types of customers. Partial factor statistics make it possible to omit irrelevant factors in a particular operation. Meals or sales per labor hour being prime examples. For example, a high-volume, all-day burrito shop will have remarkably higher meals per labor hour than a 10-table, dinner-only restaurant. The dinner restaurant may have pricier entrees and beverage sales that boost its sales per labor hour. Statistics are also tricky when cafeterias serve both entrees and a la carte items, or when they operate satellite locations in addition to a main location. Meals served is likely not the most reliable statistic for examination in this instance. The takeaway here is that very few operations are identical, so they require different methods of statistical and financial analysis. Furthermore, the measures chosen should not be trusted completely or blindly, recognizing that they all have drawbacks. These analyses can also be time-consuming, so financial tracking systems are highly recommended. Other common terms you may hear in regards to these analyses are equivalent meal value, floating equivalent meal price factor, and intertemporal analysis. The greater number of variables included in your statistics, the more accurate the assessment of your operation's productivity will be. The total factor productivity analysis calculation will be the revenue for a period divided by the sum of the food cost for the same period, productive labor costs for the period, direct operating expenses for the period, and apportioned minimum profit. The Pareto principle is a management principle that claims 80% of the effects of any event or factor stem from only 20% of the causes. When it comes to food service, this rule can be applied to the management of employees. Most management claims to spend 80% of its time dealing with the 20% worst performing employees, which creates great demand of the management's time. If good employees see the management spending all of their time fixing problems rather than rewarding good behavior, motivation will often decrease from the good employees. If the management were instead to spend 80% of their time with the top 20% of employees, job satisfaction, workplace performance, and operational productivity is thought to improve. When the 80-20 rule is applied to patronage, it concludes that 80% of sales are driven by 20% of customers, meaning that 20% of loyal customers bring repeat business, thereby providing 80% of the business revenue. The loyal customers are often referred to as barnacles, since they stick by the restaurant no matter what. And the 80% are the butterflies that move around and